that despite the loss, I think it is not bad if there are incentives for those who might help the discos themselves. For example, if we are all aware that there are decays in infrastructure like transformer, poles, cables, and all the rest, and you have individual or community coming together to assist you, buying transformer, donate it, as much as possible, even if law does not allow that. I think it is only reasonable in the business notes to find a way of appreciating them. Because if you want to also do it, you know the capital investment that it will take and the time lag. More so, you need these things to generate more resources. So if a community, like something happened, I didn't know, I struggled, I made some transformer available, and when we were citing it, somebody said, please don't give us transformer, we'll be managing. Because where they gave them transformer the other time, the bill went up. So it's better you don't help us with it. When somebody said that, I noted it, and I started making inquiry. And I realized that it was a transformer billing method that caused the crisis. So everybody began to run away until they overload to the maximum of that, not anticipating the growth. Yet the help you have today, you may not have it tomorrow. But if the disco decides to encourage partnership from the users, even if, for example, a 10 kVA transformer, let's say, is 2 million, and you say, okay, if you can provide this thing, and we guide you, you get it, is 2 million, we will reimburse you with 500,000. And this 500,000 will be, you will be reimbursed like this, by reducing your bill. Then they will appreciate it. However, also, when you also have damages, even when we say they steal materials there, short things up, it is caused by those who have knowledge of it, not people who doesn't have knowledge. In some of the community in my constituency, armed robber came, fire gun at the cable, scatter everything. And when you want to refix back, disco will say, pay your bill first before you refix. Then you start asking people in the rural area to raise 10 million, 20 million. Where would they get it from? It's as bad as that. So we should also look at all these things. A community that takes security to guard transformer that is born by itself, and there's nothing to show appreciation, and we felt the law does not count them. That law must be looked into. I personally make effort on that. And I want to plead with the DISCO that in the business nature, we should do our best to remunerate as a function of incentive anyone that partners with you in getting standard items on the field. Thank you, sir.
Questions that have been raised from the high table, and they work backwards to cover all the other questions. The first issue is about community investment. This was a big practice before takeover. Because of the liquidity issue, even then, communities had to come together to put money together, put up infrastructure so that they can have electricity. On one side, it's a very noble approach to get electricity. On the other side, it's not a perfect solution, it has its own flaws. One flaw could be in the area of the specification of the equipment being used. Instead of concrete doors, there could be a compromise to use wooden poles. There are also compromises in conductors. You start unstringing the conductor, it's 50 mm, you unwrap it to 25 and use it. In electricity, that has its own danger because you can then have high incidence of conductor cuts and electrocution. There are also issues about use of refurbished transformers or transformers whose specifications are not equal to the load. So you find that when you sum up, the third issue is a commercial side. Some communities will say, look, it's a community effort, now we are levying the customers. We have cases where the levying has been going on for years. You go there and you do the calculations, the investment was recovered a long time ago, but that has turned into extortion. This is the reason why NEC had to put up an order or a regulation how this can be handled. And in that presentation, what's supposed to happen is that before the community embark on anything of self-development, they come and sit with us so that we agree on those parameters, we agree on specification, we agree on the cost. Even the costing should never be inflated because we want to have value for money. It is from that agreement that before even a PO is put in place, we already know the numbers and the level of investment. So that has been the difficulty. But having said that, we ADC as a policy, we want to take full charge of most of these community development efforts, except in areas where, you know, we cooperate like with local government. They have an interest to electrify a certain area, we can be able to work together. But by and large, we want to limit, it should not be the normal way of expanding the community because of those challenges I've spoken about. The other issue is estimated billing. Is it constant? By formula, it's not constant because when I showed the calculation, you know, you are beginning with measuring a certain amount of volume which went into the cluster, and then you removed the losses, and then you did the sharing formula. So the volume of energy which has been fed to the cluster is different month by month. So that's the reason why it may not look constant. If it's constant even for months, for example, let me give a good example. Customers may not be aware that there has been a dramatic improvement in the amount of energy we are getting from the system. In the last year or so, ADC energy were averaging something like 400, 390 megawatts. As of today, we are hitting over 500, 590, and so on and so on, because more generation is coming on board. And this is due to the intervention fund, which is supporting the generation side. So they've been able to release more energy. So when you do the computation, if you don't have a meter, it doesn't become very obvious that you have seen an improvement in your area, unless you have a meter. It is a meter which settles the argument. That is the reason why we think that a quick fix is as quickly as possible. Those 7,000 meters, we must meet our transformers. Because at a local level, then we can say, look, this is your transformer, it rate this. Then issues of availability come in, and both parties, we can reach some middle ground. The other issue, our member of the Senate, our member of the House of Rep, it's like he read our mind, he read our approach to community relationship. We have indeed a very active plan which the board has approved to ensure that in certain areas we are going to partner with the communities to outsource revenue collection. But even there we need some basic metering so that the sharing formula of the contribution of houses is known, and we'll put a prepaid meter on the transformer. So it will be a transparent system where they levy according to some sharing formula, they buy units on the transformer, then they have electricity. The advantages are many, because then the community can decide on their own the level of supply. If they have more money, they can leave the transformer 24/7. But if they relate and see how the bill is working out, they can say, look, let's not, as a community, let's agree on this transformer. Let's not do 24 hours. Maybe let's do 12 hours or 8 to match our pocket. That is a sort of dialogue. We want to shift this to a level where we are partnering with local community. And this is coming even in Nasarawa. Nasarawa, I'll relate it to another question which came in Nasarawa. A customer explained that they don't get full voltage. And unfortunately, this is the situation. Whereas we are happy that we are getting more generation, more and more generation. In Lafia particularly, we have not been able to pump in more energy. For the simple reason that the supply lines are very long, coming from Apple at 132 kV all the way to Kefi and Akwanga. From Akwanga to Lafia, it's even a 33 kV line. Now, if the voltage is lower and you are trying to transmit more power, the voltage collapses. So we have a situation where the whole country has got more generation. You want to pump into Lafia. Out of their 4 or 5 lines, if you feed more than 3, the voltage becomes so low that the lights cannot even come in. Now, I want to share with the community that you may be aware that at a level of transmission, NIPPI are busy right now constructing 330 to 132 and 33 kV bulk supplies substation, which should come on board somewhere around October, November. When that is commissioned, Nasarawa will have the same level of supply like FCT. If there is available generation in the country, then that. Now, what that means on our side is that we have to roll out some basic metering and so on. To seal the loopholes, we can get very high losses, where customers who are used to paying very low level, they will receive 24/7 and they will be struggle to start seeing bills of 27,000, 30,000, equal to 24-hour supply. So there, we are particularly positioning ourselves to move out very quickly to partner with the customers in terms of transformer metering. The other issue was, can BP reset? Yes, the fundamental issue of the power sector is the liquidity issue, and I spoke to the issue around the tariff and the mismatches, and what can be done practically. Because on one hand, the customers cannot stomach a real tariff. On the other hand, the DISCO needs a balance sheet to be well balanced so that they can attract capital into the sector. Whether this has to come through additional partners, additional investors, or the DISCO raising it from the market depends on one formula. And that formula is, I want to align my thoughts with the proposal for a regulatory asset. What a regulatory asset does is that, yes, we realize that you DISCO, we owe you through that. If the tariff was adjusted, your revenue should have been X, but we can't do it now. But we promise that in future, it will be added to your tariff. Now, that future is important because at that time, the system will be so efficient, the actual addition will be so little, will not be felt by customers. But by mere introducing that instrument in the book starts looking very good, and you can walk anywhere and get all the financing that is needed to do your metering, to do your transformers, to improve service. So, yes, as we speak right now, there is an active program as part of the power sector reform program to actually look at the reset, how the performance trajectory can be reset. And regulatory asset is one of the instruments which the government can support to implement, and it can unlock the liquidity issues going forward. There was an issue around, okay, the process of the investment. I already spoke to this. NEC, I think, gave an elaborate presentation on how the investors can engage with us before planting even a single pole. We need to agree specification and other issues. I think that is well answered. Comparing telecom sector transformation and electricity transformation, the path for transformation is similar. We are in the stage where the telecom sector first, at the beginning of their transformation. There is only one basic difference. In electricity, transformation may take a little bit longer, for the simple reason that unlike telecoms, electricity can be stolen, because all those bypasses I spoke about, the customers who are invisible and they are not known on the billing system and all that, they delay the transformation. In the telecom industry, it is totally wireless. If you have not paid, you will not get it. So it's a much shorter transformation process, but the trajectory will be the same, beginning with very poor supply, high costs. At the end, we'll have very high level of supply and increased volumes of revenue at a lower tariff. There was a customer who spoke about a protest tomorrow. I know tomorrow is a holiday, but that does not stop us from engaging you. In our midst, we have customer service officers. They will sit down with you to see how we can resolve the concerns of the customers, which ties into what process do we have to engage our customers. Number one point of contact is that we do have a 24/7 call center. The numbers are shared on the bills. Number two, we do have walk-in centers almost everywhere. A customer can come and walk in and report. Now, the beauty with the call center, let me begin with the call center, is that immediately when you report, a fault docket is generated, which has a reference number. Now, what that means, you see, the beauty of technology is that nobody can hide that complaint because it has been recorded by people who are not connected to the resolution. Their job is to religiously record whatever the customer says. And because it cannot be raised, it means all of us in management have got a view and we start asking questions. Why this has delayed? Why can't this be resolved? You know, it's different when you report to a colleague, when you report to an acquaintance, we don't have the view of the complaint and it's like. So these are some of the frustrations. So we encourage our customers to use our call center. They can use our walk-in customer care centers and we'll be able to resolve their issues. Now, this ties in to several contributions around customer centrism or how we treat customers. One presenter even said, look, at a high level head office, you know how to relate to the customer. When we come to marketers, maybe some of them behave like touts and so on. It is something which we have observed and we are working on it. I'm proud to say that this year we've sent overseas our first frontline staff as part of our effort to create a customer-centric organization. Not to invent the wheel, to go and relate to other utilities, how they've done, how they've transformed. And they've come back with templates. We are going to train virtually all our staff with the emphasis with those who are customer-facing. But we want to change the organization to a level where we place the customer as a king, as you put it, but it's an issue of training because it's a transformation issue. We are going to train, monitor performance, we are going to change the culture. We'll put in a mechanism to be able to trace how we are performing and so on and so on. There are some techniques where you get outside companies, they come in covertly and test our system, how they are relating, and then we make adjustment to make sure that we are really changing for the better. Because we realize the customers know that it will take time to have 24/7 supply. It will take time to fix a lot of these things. But I think the major expectation, they want to see that when they complain gets received. I think that will be the first indicator that we are transforming. The other channels for communication is that we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are also introducing SMS. I shared that we are going to run a program. You receive an anonymous SMS asking you to enroll your number. It is very important for us because when you do so, we will be able to relate to you, share more information with you. We can share information about your bills, we can share information about outages, we can share information about, especially outages. Now, let me relate it to another customer who says, why don't you tell us that you are going to have an outage from this time to this time? The only means we have now to tell you that is by using mass communication, either Facebook or radio and other means of mass communication. The danger of that, as soon as we do that, then we are letting the vendors to know that from this time to this time there's no supply, and then we lose a lot of cables and so on and so on. But if you give us your phone number, because you are a customer enrolled on us, you will personally receive the message and make your own adjustment. We don't want to broadcast to people who are not our customers, who may not have the interest of the service at heart. So that's a challenge which we are facing. Provision of transformers. Our policy is that, number one, I spoke about this investment by our customer, but what we are saying is that for ourselves, we are responsible for any hardware, responsible for delivering electricity to you. You are not responsible to buy a fuse, to buy a transformer, to buy anything. In fact, we want to change the NEPA brand into an AEDC brand. Unfortunately, the NEPA brand is so entrenched that our customers have become so knowledgeable on the infrastructure. They even know what a transformer looks like. I've worked in an environment where the customer, will raise a danger call that your transformer is on fire. So the engineers rush on site. They find that it's a fuse which has blown because the transformer the customer didn't know how a transformer looks like. The fact that the customers know the transformer is an indication of the pain they go through to have a good service. But over time, we want to change that kind of perception. We are totally responsible. And I want to take this opportunity again, and I share on every forum. Do not give any money to somebody to do their work. We have a totally zero tolerance to corruption of any kind, zero tolerance. In the past, customers will relate to us like this and give an indication that there could be some corruption going on. when we become serious to investigate so that we correct the situation, we are always met with a brick wall. At some stage, the customer says, please, you know, I don't want this thing to be on my head. Or this man has a family, so don't touch him and whatever. Unfortunately, if we don't clean up, we cannot transform. There are a lot of Nigerians who mean very well, who want to contribute to transformation. If one of us is not sharing part of the value, for us, it's better he goes and we bring another new Nigerian into the organization so that at the end of the day, we can totally change the culture into a culture which is customer-centric, which promotes honesty, which promotes teamwork, and a better customer relationship. The issues around Abaji, I've taken note. I know that the infrastructure is not in very good shape. We'll give it a special focus to see how we can improve your supply there. I've gone there a few times. I'm not happy with the way the network is. There will be a lot of fixing to be done so that you can improve your supply. There's a customer who spoke about owning a transformer. You know, having a dedicated transformer has got an implication on the level of tariff. If you have a dedicated transformer and your consumption is of a certain level, then you qualify to become an MD customer. So we need to be careful on this. You'll find that your tariff may be different to your colleague who is on a public transformer, by virtue of you owning your own transformer. But these are issues which, in a transparent way, we share with our customers. The issue around Suleja concerning the injection substation. Yes, we are working, we are very serious about that project to drop an injection substation to improve your supply. I know that you expressed a lot of pain and satisfaction and relating it to the EFCC transformer. Again, what I can share with the customers is that, you know, a transformer is not really labeled where the transformer is going. The language which the customer should use is that, can you give us this transformer in 2 weeks or 1 week or 1 month, so that we have some sort of agreement. Because I can share with you that we do have supplier agreement, transformers of that size. If there's an emergency, we can even get delivery in less than 48 hours. So whether a transformer is moved in the stores, I think it shouldn't worry too much. Again, it's a change of perception. We want a situation where customers just worry about the switch. Worry about the switch, whether there's power or no power. You know, when you go to a good restaurant, we don't go behind the kitchen and say that soup which they brought should have been for my neighbor. Now they will say, changing, they're going with this soup. The kitchen, normally, we don't really mind what goes there, as long as you get your share. So that transformer is in the kitchen. If we agree with you on the level of preparedness on site, whether the plinths, how far they've gone, and the transformer is now needed, I can assure you that we will not delay to deliver a brand new transformer to meet our commitment to supply that area. There was a discussion around targets. A target is not a bad thing. A target is a measure of how we are performing. Remember that as a DISCO, we are not, we are part of a long supply chain. The money which we collect is for the entire sector. And our performance is important for the survival of the industry. All the good things we are talking about transforming and improving hours of supply, can only be sustainable if there is a feedback mechanism of sufficient revenue upstream. If we don't perform ourselves, who are debt collectors for the entire section, then we are slowing the process of transforming the sector. Now, targets are not just collection. There are targets relating to supply. There are targets relating to our safety records. There are targets relating to how many infrastructure has been maintained. For example, out of our 30 areas, every area, every day, they are maintaining at least 3 distribution transformers. And we've put in technology to enforce this performance. We call it ODK. Using smartphones are some of the issues which normally customers raise. What is the source of our meters? 90% of our meters have been sourced locally. Of the 146,000 meters which I shared, 90,000 have been sourced through Mojek, who is a local manufacturing company, although it does have an export, a foreign content in some of the components. But the reason is simple. From the value proposition, local companies, they are better placed to evaluate the risk of transaction with us. Because of liquidity issues, we've had to use creative funding, what we call vendor financing arrangement. So a local company has a better understanding of the risks around vendor financing, and it comes naturally that they score highly in terms of the procurement process, even though our procurement process is open and competitive, highly competitive. And we hope that going forward, this will be the case. The issue of calibrating meters, most of our meters are electronic meters. Calibration normally, you know, is related to analog meters. These meters before the modern ones, which are, you know, smart. In some cases, the meters are even smart. But I suppose what the customers normally refer to is that, do we check the accuracy of the meters? We have invested heavily in our own, we have portable equipments where if a customer complains, within a few minutes, if we clamp it against a meter, we can certify within 10 minutes that what the meter is reading and what is our portable instruments are reading is the jiving. But you see, we cannot be the ref and the judge at the same time. Where customers feel that there should be a third party, like the way HOFA has done, we are very happy to engage in NEMSA to do those checks and satisfy our customers. The issue about donating infrastructure or transformers and then customers refuse, DISCOs refuse. We are not yet confronted with such a situation, but what we'd love to do is to have better collaboration with our leaders who are donating transformers, because some of the challenges which are there is that the desire of the community may say we want a transformer at this site or that site. Now you look at the site, you find that it's so far away from the nearest point of supply. Then the transformer becomes a smaller component of the cost of the infrastructure development. Remember that a regulated business, every year there is a cap on how much capital expenditure you can plow in. If you spend more than that limit, it is your loss, you will never recover that. That is a regulated business. So because of those sensitivities, there is need to actually dialogue so that there is some understanding. To say if it is positioned here, we can manage. If it is here, we can manage. And then it can be very smooth in terms of implementation. Community at the transformer level. Yes. We spoke about metering the transformers as an interim level of improving estimated billing. For the simple reason that, you know, let's face reality, to meter every customer will take quite a long time and the pain is too much. So a quick fix is, rather than estimating you from the reading of the meter at the substation, it's better we estimate you based on a reading which is a transformer which is next door. That gives a lot of accuracy. But on our side, our approach is, if we have to rely on the transformer which is locally feeding you, even if we have metered all the customers, we marry that effort with a survey of the load, where we physically go there and say, okay, how many bulbs do you have, how many, so you have some sensible ratio of sharing. So that even under that arrangement, there is a basis of sharing which is a bit fair.